You know exactly what you need to do. You understand the steps, you've read all the productivity advice, watched all the videos, tried all the systems, and yet you're still sitting there paralyzed, watching the clock tick away, feeling that familiar wave of self-hatred rise in your chest because once again, your brain refuses to cooperate. Once again, you're letting everyone down, including yourself. Once again, you're proving that you're exactly what you've always feared you are. Lazy, broken, unfixable, a waste of potential. You start every day with good intentions. You make the list, you set the timer. You promise yourself this time will be different, and by noon you've done everything except the thing you actually needed to do. You've reorganized your desk, you've checked your phone 40 times, you've started 3 different tasks and finished none of them. And now you're sitting in the wreckage of another failed day, wondering why you can't just be normal, why you can't just do the thing, why everyone else seems to have an instruction manual for being a functional human being. And you got a brain that feels like it's fighting you every single second. You can't start things until the panic sets in. You can't focus unless there's a crisis. You can't remember what someone told you 5 minutes ago, but you can recall every embarrassing thing you've ever done in perfect detail. You lose everything: keys, wallet, phone, train of thought, entire conversations that you were present for but somehow didn't absorb. You interrupt people not because you're rude, but because if you don't say it right now, the thought will vanish like smoke and you'll spend the next hour trying to remember what it was. You're either completely obsessed or completely indifferent, no middle ground, either hyperfixated on something useless or unable to care about something important. And everyone keeps telling you to just try harder. Just focus, just apply yourself, like you haven't been trying your entire life. Like trying hasn't been the only thing you've ever done. You have a graveyard of abandoned projects, unfinished courses, half-read books, incomplete tasks that haunt you every time you try to start something new. Because deep down you know you're probably not going to finish this one either, and the shame of that knowing is almost worse than the failure itself. This isn't laziness. This isn't a character flaw. This isn't you being dramatic or making excuses. This is your brain wired differently in a world designed for brains that work in straight lines. And you've been trying to force yourself into a mold that was never meant to fit you, punishing yourself for not being able to do what comes naturally to others, internalizing every frustrated comment, every disappointed look, every "you're so smart, why can't you just apply yourself" as proof that something is fundamentally wrong with you. Your brain doesn't produce dopamine the way it's supposed to, which means the reward system that motivates most people to do boring, necessary things literally doesn't work for you the same way, which means you're not choosing to procrastinate, you're not deciding to be distracted. You're operating with a neurological disadvantage that makes every mundane task feel like pushing a boulder uphill, with no promise of it ever getting easier. You've been running a race with weights on your ankles while everyone else sprints past you and then turns around and asks why you're so slow. And you've internalized that question so deeply that you don't even see the weights anymore. You just assume you're weak, you're broken, you're the problem. Here's what nobody tells you because the productivity industry makes too much money keeping you ashamed. You're not supposed to function like neurotypical people, and trying to force yourself into their systems is why you keep failing, why you keep burning out, why you keep hating yourself for being exactly who you are. The planner that works for them won't work for you. The routine that saves them will suffocate you. The advice that sounds so simple when they say it becomes impossible when you try to execute it. Because your brain doesn't process time, priority, or motivation the same way. And until you stop trying to be them and start building systems that work for how you actually are, you're going to keep cycling through the same pattern of hope and failure that's been destroying you. You don't need more discipline, you need different strategies. You don't need to try harder, you need to try differently. You don't need to fix yourself, you need to stop using tools that were designed for a brain you don't have. You can start by stopping the war with yourself by recognizing that your brain isn't broken, it's just different. And different doesn't mean less. It means you need a different approach, a different relationship with work, a different definition of productivity that doesn't leave you feeling like garbage every time you don't meet some arbitrary neurotypical standard. You can start by using the hyperfocus instead of fighting it, by building your work around when your brain actually wants to engage, instead of forcing it to perform on someone else's schedule, by accepting that you might do more in 3 chaotic hours than most people do in 8 organized ones, and that's okay, that's not cheating, that's working with your operating system instead of against it. You can start by externalizing everything your brain won't hold, writing it down, setting alarms, creating visual reminders, building an environment that compensates for what your neurology can't do naturally. Not because you're incompetent, but because accommodation is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's working smarter, not harder. It's respecting your limitations instead of pretending they don't exist until you crash. You can start by breaking everything into absurdly small steps. So small it feels stupid, because your brain doesn't see the big picture. It sees an overwhelming mountain and shuts down. But if you make the step small enough, specific enough, concrete enough, your brain can latch onto it, can say, okay, I can do this one tiny thing right now, and one tiny thing leads to another tiny thing, and suddenly you're in motion. You've tricked your brain into starting, and starting is the only part that actually matters, because once you're moving, momentum can carry you further than willpower ever could. You can start by removing the friction, by making the thing you need to do easier to start than the thing you want to do, by putting your phone in another room, by blocking the websites, by creating barriers between you and distraction, not because you lack self-control, but because your brain is wired to seek novelty and stimulation, and expecting yourself to resist that without help is like expecting someone to swim against a current without getting tired. You can start by using timers, not to pressure yourself, but to make time visible, because your brain doesn't feel time passing, doesn't register the difference between 5 minutes and 50 minutes, and that's why you're always late, always underestimating how long things take, always losing hours to things you thought would take minutes. You can start by using body doubling, by working near someone else, by being on a video call with another person who's also working. Because your brain focuses better when there's another human present, even if they're not interacting with you, even if they're just existing in the same space. Because accountability and presence create structure your brain can't generate on its own. You can start by forgiving yourself for the way your brain works, for the tasks you didn't finish, for the deadlines you missed, for the potential you haven't reached yet. Because every moment you spend hating yourself for having ADHD is a moment you're not spending learning to work with it. And working with it is the only path forward, the only way out of this cycle, the only thing that will ever actually help. The system wasn't built for you, the advice wasn't written for you, the expectations weren't designed with you in mind, and you've spent your whole life trying to contort yourself into a shape that doesn't fit while the world watches and calls it laziness, calls it lack of effort, calls it wasted potential, when really it's just a brain trying to survive in an environment that punishes it for existing differently. You're not lazy, you're not stupid, you're not a failure, you're just trying to run software designed for a different operating system and wondering why it keeps crashing. And the moment you stop blaming yourself for the crash and start finding programs that actually run on your system is the moment everything changes. Not because you suddenly become neurotypical, but because you finally stop trying to be, you finally start building a life that fits the brain you have, instead of the brain you wish you had. And that shift, that acceptance, that radical acknowledgement that you're allowed to work differently is what finally lets you work at all. You've been fighting yourself your entire life, and it's time to stop fighting and start collaborating. Time to stop seeing your brain as the enemy and start seeing it as a partner that needs different conditions to thrive, different structures to succeed, different measures of progress to feel accomplished. You're not going to wake up one day and magically be able to focus like neurotypical people. You're not going to suddenly develop the ability to do boring tasks without resistance. You're not going to turn into someone else. And that's actually the good news, because you don't need to become someone else. You just need to become someone who knows how to work with who you are. And that starts now, starts here, starts with the decision to stop measuring yourself by standards that were never meant for you, and start building systems that actually serve the brain you're living with. The brain that's been trying so hard. The brain that deserves strategies that work instead of shame that doesn't.